time. This has to do with the Suncoke plant, okay, which supports obviously steelmaking, you know, in your neighbor Middletown. The Suncoke plant is now starting to come online in support of local steelmaking operations. This is the largest industrial project in Ohio, represents 100 plus good-paying jobs, satisfies the highest EPA standards, is favored by all 5 Butler County Chambers of Commerce, and is vital to over 20 Monroe-based businesses and over 100 Monroe citizens. The City of Monroe, again, as we know, has opposed that and spent $1 million in attorney's fees to try to delay it or stop it. As a City Council member, where do you stand now on what?
I just love that you gave me Suncoke.
Everybody's going to get this question.
Well, everybody's going to get this one. Okay. But I am glad that you gave me Suncoke. That's a tough one. There are so many sides to this. And to state again what Mr. Black said, I'm here for the City of Monroe, but I'm also here for Butler County. I'm also here for the state of Ohio. I am a United States citizen, but I'm elected to watch out for the citizens of Monroe. Now, I don't know where the statistic came about the best pollution controls, as I don't believe it. You know, everybody's got their own resources about the pollution controls. Looking back, and I was looking at some of the original information that came out in 2008, and the original stuff was about the city of Middletown rezoning. Go back to the beginning. That's where I really could not believe what was coming to Monroe. It started with the rezoning. Why did they have to choose the property they did? And talking about neighbors, nobody came to the city of Monroe and said, gee, by the way, we're looking at this. We had to find out about it through other sources, through the newspaper. I showed up to the first couple of hearings, and they did not even want to listen to the Monroe residents about how concerned we were about the pollution. So that set the stage. And I was really sorry to see that they went ahead and rezoned it. We had to do what we needed to do as a council for our citizens, trying to reduce the amount of pollution. And I think that in our lawsuits, we have already accomplished some of that. Never thought I could get it to stop from being built, but at least we so far have reduced the pollution that's going to come out of it, and we're still trying to reduce it even farther because we believe that we can get the pollution level down. It'll never be 0%. When they go online, they're going to spew everything out with no pollution control. I think it's for the first 40 days. But after that, we're hoping that we can at least reduce the amount, the tons of pollution that's going to go into our air and that we're all going to be breathing. Okay, again, I'd like to reiterate that we are here as City Council people to protect the citizens in Monroe. And I know that there has been a lot of talk, I'm going to hit some different points here, some other talk about, you know, well, the EPA has looked at this, and the EPA thinks this is a good thing, that it's protective of health. Well, without getting into a lot of numbers and technical things, I'm just going to give one quick example. One of the requirements for the new source review permit is that all the other plants in the state have to be in compliance. Hammer Hill, which is also run by Suncoke, has been out of compliance pretty much since the day they opened and are considered a high priority violator by the EPA. When we asked the EPA, how do you justify this, that they're in compliance, they said, well, they only have to be in compliance on the day they send the letter that they're in compliance, which we thought was pretty ridiculous. As it turns out, according to Suncoke's own records and their self-reporting, they were out of compliance on the day they sent the letter. The EPA lawyer in a hearing responded that, well, we don't have to certify that they're in compliance, only that they sent us a letter stating that they were in compliance. If that gives you any idea of how much the EPA is trying to protect us, you know, it's like any other thing. Money talks, and they have it, we don't. But we have made great strides, and we'll continue to fight for the residents here. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. I'm sure you heard all the arguments of all the discussions. What's your opinion now?
The steelmaking industry has survived in this town for a long, long time with the technology that they have. The Haverhill plant has not been operating within its permit limits since pretty much the day it was brought online. It's been in violation of those permits. They have a more stringent permit than the one that's currently being built here in the city of Monroe. One of the things that the code plan is going to affect are property values in the vicinity. And when you drop a pebble in a pool of water, you're going to see rings radiate around from that. And that's exactly what's going to happen on that end of town. You drop a pebble in the water, the rings of degradation are going to move out from that center all through the area. And everyone in here knows that your property values are based on those of your neighbors. And as those values fall, in some cases there are properties documented today that have lost 25 and 30% of value. These are people that spent their whole life buying these houses as investments and have put everything they had into it only to have a coke plant built in their backyard. I don't necessarily agree with that. If it's going to be there, it needs to be absolutely as clean as it can be. And the only way to do that, unfortunately, is through litigation. Litigation that's scheduled to go to the Supreme Court early next year. And I might also add that through this entire process, it's not the process that we chose, it's the process we were forced into. And each and every time we've been to the Supreme Court, we've secured the ruling we were looking for at that court. And I believe we'll be here in the future.
Project. I think the city will continue to spend legal expenses.
You know, that's a very interesting question for me, and one that's probably unique on this panel. I wasn't part of the initial start of the litigation, but when I came in January, I had to come up to speed fast. I had absolutely no idea what I thought of it. Real honest, no idea. There is some information that's not available to public consumption because of the wants and needs of Suncoke. There's some information they just don't want out. Well, I've had the opportunity to read that stuff. If I had an opinion prior to being appointed to council, I might have been swayed one way or the other. And I would caution anyone who runs on a platform of pro-Suncoke or anti-Suncoke to really go at it with an open mind. There are issues that you'll read about. You know, if you guys see fit to keep me in office, great. Otherwise, my replacement will have to read up on all this stuff. I made the decision to support it. It's the right decision to make for our citizens. It's the right decision to make for the city. I wholeheartedly agree with what we've done. I know there's a stopping point. We go to the Supreme Court in January. There it is.
Well, I guess my opinion starts from, I've heard that there's this non-public information, this silver bullet or smoking gun, if you will, that if anybody saw it, they would definitely support the council. So maybe, I don't certainly question anybody's sincerity. I think this is something that different people can disagree on. And while I wish Suncoke had selected a different location for that coke plant, one that would be more amenable to the citizens of Monroe, the fact remains that that didn't happen, and the plant is built and it's going to operate. I know there'll be an impact on the city as that plant has emissions, but in my experience, I've never found the EPA to be lackadaisical or in bed with business. I guess this maybe is the first instance in the history of the country where the EPA is trying to help polluters. But that could be the case. I think as we talk about supporting or talk about a project that's happening in a different municipality, I suppose the city of Lebanon could have taken the attitude that by us building the outlet mall, they're going to get an increase in traffic and an increase in pollution on their portion of 63, and maybe they should have sued Monroe to stop that development. I'm glad they didn't, and I don't think that we should necessarily be party to lawsuits for private businesses with our neighbors when there's other parties like Suncoke Watch that could file that lawsuit on their own behalf. You know, you don't necessarily have to use public money to accomplish this goal. You could use private funds and private organizations. Anybody that's affected could have brought the lawsuit, not necessarily the city. Thank you.
First of all, I've worked in the original steel coke plant built in 1953. I live, I only guess at 3/4 of a mile from the new steel mill, from the new coke plant. When they first announced that it was going to be built, about that time was when Haverhill was becoming operational. I did drive to Haverhill. I toured the plant down there. I was, curious because, like I said, I've been in the original coke plant. I didn't have any problems with it. I know it's a coke plant. I know it puts out pollution. I did come back to city council, and I was against the lawsuit. I've spoke, 8 or 9 times against the lawsuit. Now, we're at a point where we have committed that money is an investment. I'm not in favor. I'm just right off the bat walking away from the lawsuit. I have not been involved in executive session as the rest of council. I do not know what type of decisions have been made in the past against companies like Suncoke, Exxon, large energy corporations. I would like to see the lawsuit settled so we don't walk away empty-handed. I think in order to do that, and I'm looking at the attorneys that we have, you have to have a vote that is more split. You can't have the vote 6-1, 7 in favor. It needs to be 4 in favor, maybe 3 against, that tells the attorney that this is not going to go on forever. You need to get this settled. It's like going to a car lot and saying, I love this car. And to me, that is not good business. Somebody's got to play hardball with the attorneys.
Thank you.